Kanye has gone too far. And I just think as hip hop, as fans, as people in the industry, we have to call him out on it. Enough is enough. So I wasn't really sure if I was going to do this video because the thing about Kanye, he wants us to talk about him. But I think it's really important that we just publicly call out, denounce everything Kanye is saying and doing. For those of you who've been living under a rock, and this is probably good for your mental and emotional health, Kanye has just been really acting out. So one of the big things that he did on the Grammy red carpet during the pre-show, during the red carpet arrivals, Kanye and his wife, I guess, Bianca, they walked the carpet. She disrobed to basically show that she was wearing like a see-through outfit. It caused a lot of commotion, and then very quickly she put her coat back on, and then they left the carpet. After that, Kanye went on this long Twitter tirade. I think on one day it lasted like 11 hours. Like it just kept going and going. I've unfollowed him, so I didn't catch every update. And I'm not going to post all of the tweets or really any of them on here because I just feel like it's so disrespectful. If you need, there's a lot of news outlets that have kind of culled the highlights, or in this case, lowlights. But the long and short of it, Kanye is just very emboldened now to go out of his way to hurt people. And he said hurtful things against women, against Black people, against Jewish people, against people who've been survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence. He's just really pushing every button that he can. He's gone full sort of outright MAGA incel, like whatever you want to call it. That's where Kanye is. Most recently, he did a Super Bowl ad that only aired in some local spots in California, but when people went to the Yeezy store after, they saw that he was selling a shirt with a swastika. And Kanye has been very pro-Hitler, just really digging his heels in. If you remember a few years ago, he went on that whole spiral about saying slavery was a choice, wearing the White Lives Matter shirt at the Yeezy show, talking about Hitler and all of these things. And, you know, at the time, a lot of people, especially in hip hop, I think we felt some level of wanting to help him or protect him. There was this understanding or a feeling that he was struggling with mental illness. Look, I don't know his mental state based on the day he changes his story. He's bipolar one minute, or he says he has autism on the next. Other times he's totally fine and this is just fake news. I don't know, and I'm not here to diagnose him. But I do think that people were very sympathetic, empathetic. They wanted him to get better because, let's be honest, if you are a fan, like you love his early music, his production, going all the way back to his first single that he produced for Rockefeller, which is Beanie Siegel's The Truth, great record, to The College Dropout, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Graduation. I mean, these are these seminal projects in music. There's a reason people called him a genius. Even when I wrote my book, Fashion Killer, I had to include Kanye because Yeezy at its height was one of the most successful commercially and insofar as impact hip-hop fashion lines. And when he initially had his, let's say, public meltdown, for lack of a better term, I do think that a lot of people put blame on his mental illness, on the fact that his mom had passed away and that had been a triggering moment in his life, his relationship with the Kardashians, who are obviously a very high-profile family, and just the pressures of fame were getting to him. All of those things might be true, but I think fast forward where we are now as a culture, as a society, we have to face the cold hard facts. This is who Kanye is, and it's not fair to blame his behavior on other things because there are people who have gone through tragedy, they're dealing with mental health issues, They might be on the spectrum and they don't act this way. And it's not acceptable someone of his stature who has such a big platform and audience, as well as resources, to behave in this way. And, going through some of his tweets, it's really, really sad. It's very unsettling. You can see he really is trying to garner favor from white supremacists, from people who are neo-Nazis. He's going out of his way to cozy up to sexual abusers and alleged sexual predators. Like, at what point? This isn't art. This is actually just bad, and it needs to be denounced. And that's the thing. When it comes to Kanye, it's so easy to write off all the outrageous things he does as performance art. And there is something to be said about celebrities and artists being, quirky and eccentric, and this idea of all the world is a stage. But if that's the case, the art he's putting out now is just bad. It's bad, and it's also really pathetic. This is something I shared on social media. What Kanye fears most in the world, it's not about being canceled. It's not about, being seen in a negative light. His biggest fear is irrelevance. And at this stage in his life, that's where he is. Let's be totally honest. When was the last time you really were feeling a Kanye record? And I'm not talking about his hardcore loyalists and, the little boys who follow him. Like, from a real musical perspective, when was the last time you were excited about what he was doing? Or even aesthetically, what he was doing was new and interesting and avant-garde. I'll be honest, probably since Pablo, I kind of just don't care. And if my memory is right, Pablo was 2016, give or take? So it's been almost a decade. When he puts out records, like the Donda sessions, for example, of course I tuned in. It was a pop culture moment, but it went so quickly. And that's the thing. Kanye used to be someone who was a trendsetter. He was the one moving what the needle was culturally. And now it almost feels like he's just playing catch up. I'm sure he's looking at the news cycle. Okay, wait a minute. So Elon Musk is taking up everyone's attention, and he just keeps pushing the boundaries more and more. Trump is taking up the whole news cycle. And in the world of hip hop, especially between the Grammys and the Super Bowl, it's all about Kendrick. So you're Kanye looking around like, well, what about me? And that's when he really gets insecure, impatient, and starts to act out. And again, at what point do we say you're almost 50 years old? Like, this is not acceptable behavior. We're not just going to write it off as you're a genius. It's performance art. You're going out of your way to hurt people. And at this point, there's no group he hasn't offended. So he's been, anti-Semitic, racist, misogynistic. I'm probably missing some stuff. So many things, right? Homophobic. Like, again, I have to rack my mind, not really, because there's just so much stuff. And I just don't know how someone can stand by him, support him as a brand or as a celebrity. And it's kind of sad because at his heart, he was a very talented person. I'm sure for a lot of us, his discography still has a lot of sentimental value and nostalgia. But at this moment in time, he's just not it. And, sometimes I think about it. Like, imagine if a female celebrity acted the way Kanye does. I have a feeling she'd probably be locked up or in a conservatorship. Just look at Britney Spears, Wendy Williams. Like, they were deemed to be unfit to just have control over their lives for doing far less than he's done. And by no means am I saying that that's the route that needs to be taken, but I just feel like as a society, we infantilize men and we give them chance after chance after chance and find any way to make excuses for them. And I'm not saying that Kanye hasn't gone through real things in his life. He's a human, and even with money and fame, you still go through things. some would argue even more. Like your existence becomes even more hollow because you can buy everything ostensibly, right? But I also think this narrative he has of being the perpetual victim, it's always someone else's fault. It's, women's fault, it's Kim Kardashian's fault, it's Jewish people's fault, it's everyone's fault but his. And you just got to wonder, what does that mean for society when we have these men running around in all facets of entertainment and pop culture and politics, who they just do bad things, they hurt people, they rob, they steal, they do whatever they want, but somehow it's everyone's fault and they're the perpetual victim. And I don't know about you, but that's just not something I can stand behind. I don't find it particularly interesting or compelling, and it's definitely not the sign of a genius. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Kanye. I'm really, really kind of making sure I'm not spending a lot of time on social media, following him or engaging with him, because that's what he wants. He wants you to give him attention. We're in an attention economy, and all press is good press. All attention is good attention. He's incapable of differentiating. So the best way to sort of disarm him and people like him is you just cut off their air and you take away that attention. So that's kind of my two thoughts when it comes to Kanye, everything that's going on. I definitely feel like a lot of Day One fans, they're hurting, they're disappointed, but I think at some point we have to also see who he is. And time and again, he showed us this is who he is. Since the start of his career, he's always wanting to be outspoken, shake things up. And in the beginning, I think because it was mostly harmless, everyone was on board. But now it's just gotten so much more darker that really, with the exception of some very damaged people like white supremacists and neo-Nazis, like I don't know who in good faith would call themselves a Kanye fan. But that's how I feel about it. I'm going to close the comments on this video because as I've seen on social media, there are a lot of bots, I think a lot of paid bots, but that's my own thought, who will come out of the woodwork and just turn this into something really ugly. So I don't want to go there. But that's just kind of my 2 cents, and that's how I feel.